Okay, so let's start today's class. So I'll just go through a mathematical formulation which we used to kind of simplify on the microcanonical ensemble yesterday. So we wrote that we knew we had two systems, right? E1 and E2, which were at initially they were not, they were isolated, but then they were brought to contact such that they can exchange energies. And then we derived at equilibrium what is the uh, equation that has to be satisfied between these systems, and we that then they said that it's nothing but the temperatures of the both systems should be same. That's when the energy transfer stops, or the net energy transfer between the systems stops. And we used this formulation where omega E is my density of states of the system, right? And this is integral dE1 omega E1, and the other system is E minus E1. Remember, what is constant? E is constant such that E1 plus E2 is constant. So omega E is giving me all the density of states of all possible systems which have energy E constant. So I'm varying dE1 such that E2 is E2 E minus E1, and I get this is the integral. And from the Boltzmann formula, I can write, I know S is kb ln omega. So that's where I've substituted. Omega is nothing but e to the power s by kb. So I get this. And now we had to integrate this. And what did we do? We said that this is an integral where in my exponential, I have a term entropy. And these integrals can be approximated by the maximum value of the integral of this integrand, right? So that's why we differentiated this s with respect to e1, and then we arrived at the equation. So just a brief background as to how, and some mathematical proof why that can be done. So we all know pressure, temperature, electric field, etc. These are the j terms in your work. So work is j dxi, so this is dw, right? So all these j terms are usually go as order n power 0. So they are all intensive properties, right? Yeah. Whereas if I look at extensive properties like volume, free energy, entropy, area, energy, etc., they're all extensive properties and they go as some order of n, and this power is greater than 1. And most of the common quantities go as order n, but there are many things which may go as order n square also, right? Which we don't talk about much in this course, but there are cases where that happens, especially when it comes to astrophysics, etc. And there are some terms which, while we evaluate, you will get such that you'll have to solve an equation where it is sum of e to the power these n phi. So they go as order of exponential of n times phi, where n is the number of particles in the system and phi is nothing but some intensive variable, you can, or an intensive property of the system. Okay. So this is the mathematical formulation where I have a sum where I goes from 1 to n capital. So I'll call this n capital because this is the number of terms in the system and this n is the number of particles in the system. So I need to calculate the sum, and this is in the limit. Remember all the statistical mechanics, everything we are talking in the limit as n approaches infinity. Okay, sorry. So we want to calculate what is the sum in the limit as n approaches infinity. Okay, so remember I have a sum in the continuous limit. This is nothing but an integrand, so it is nothing but s integral d phi e to the power n phi. Okay, remember that. So in the sum it's a discrete, and in the integral it's a continuous thing. So this is similar to what we have here, right? I have dE e to the power s of e, and we'll see that s, your entropy, is nothing but an extensive function. So it goes as order n. So I can write e to the power n times phi. Phi is the intensive property. Okay. So I have this sum, and we know for each term I'll have a value. So I'll define epsilon I as e to the power n times phi I, and I know for each value of I have a epsilon I, correct? Once this is done, so I can kind of plot for all the terms that I have epsilon 1, epsilon 2, epsilon 3, then epsilon 4 is larger than this, epsilon 5 is the largest, then epsilon 6, etc., etc. So what this theorem says is, in the limit as n tends to infinity, my sum can be approximated, or my sum approaches the maximum, just the maximum value of this sum. What does that mean? Instead of calculating for each of the i's, I can calculate the value for the I where this is maximum and it is equal to that. Or the other way of looking at it is that there is one term, only one term in the equation which is dominated. As a result, if you add infinity, if you add a small thing to something which is very large, again the answer does not change much. It always in the limit as n tends to infinity, it converges to this value. Okay, so let's look at this proof. We have already looked at this proof in class, but let's look at this again. I have S is equal to epsilon max. I know epsilon max is the minimum value that the sum can have, right? Because I'm sure that there is one term which has a value epsilon max. So the minimum value of this sum should be epsilon max. And what can be the maximum value of this sum? When all the terms are equal to epsilon max. So S is bound by epsilon max on the left hand side, lower bound, and this capital N is the number of terms times epsilon max on the positive side. Sorry, on the right hand side. Okay, all the terms are positive, remember that. So I'll just take a logarithm, since it's a anyways log of a positive number, the inequalities won't change, and since we are dealing with large numbers, it will help us. So I'll take log epsilon max, that becomes log s, and I have log eta plus log epsilon max. Now another interesting thing is, now I'll divide this again by n, which is the number of particles. So on the left hand side I have ln epsilon x by n, and I have ln s by n, and here I have ln this capital N plus ln epsilon max by n. So n is just the number of terms. Of course, the number of terms, even if I assume that they go as some power to the number of particles, right? Number of particles have order of 10 power 23. Even if I assume that I have infinite terms which go as n to the power p, as soon as I take log, so I get ln of this capital N is p times ln of n, right? So this ln n by n in the limit as n tends to infinity will definitely go to 0, because n increases faster than ln n. Okay, so now what do I have? I have a function which is ln epsilon max by n. On the left hand side it is bound by that, on the right hand side is also bound by that. So it has no other meaning other than, in the limit as n tends to infinity, my ln s by n is nothing but ln epsilon max by n. Okay, so this is the only outcome of this. So that just means s is equals epsilon max. Okay, so again I'm writing, if s goes from I equals 1 to many n number of terms, e to the power n phi I, this is nothing but e to the power n phi max. And this is how we yesterday arrived at this equation, what we did here. Okay, and also always remember this ln s by n becomes an intensive function or an intensive property only when s is of the form e to the power n phi, right? So s scales as e to the power n phi, right? So if I take log, this becomes n phi. And now if I divide this by n, phi is something which is a intensive property. Okay. So this is how we arrived at this yesterday.